Imagine a bustling city, a beacon of culture, art, and intellectual pursuit during the 14th century. It had poets, philosophers, merchants, and craftsmen all contributing to a renaissance that was yet to come. This was Florence, an Italian city-state that lit the fires of a cultural revolution generations before Michelangelo picked up his chisel. But as this vibrant city flourished, a silent storm loomed on the horizon, one that would bring death to the doorsteps of millions. The Black Death, a plague that claimed a third of Europe's population in what seemed like the blink of an eye. But while many cities succumbed to despair, chaos, and uncontrollable death, Florence did something extraordinary. It outsmarted death. And its story sets it apart as a city that not only survived, but adapted in ways that would inspire generations to come. To understand the gravity of Florence's story, let's take a moment to understand the plague itself. Arriving in Europe in 1347, the Black Death was believed to be spread by fleas carried by rats. Ships, trade routes, and even human travelers became avenues for its destruction. Symptoms were horrifying. Painful swellings called buboes, acute fever, and an unnerving dizziness that often preceded death. No cure existed, and even the greatest minds were perplexed, attributing it to divine wrath, bad air, or celestial misalignments. Cities all over Europe fell to chaos. Local governments collapsed, and the social structure crumbled as fear and superstition gripped populations. But Florence was different. Yes, the city was hit hard at first, losing nearly half of its inhabitants in the initial wave of the plague. However, Florence took steps to curtail the devastation. City officials initiated an unprecedented level of organization amidst a crisis with no known solution. They created what you might call the 14th century version of a public health task force. This was revolutionary for the era. Leaders appointed health officials known as plague masters, individuals given the task of monitoring diseases and initiating containment protocols. If a household reported symptoms, these plague masters had the authority to quarantine it, completely isolating the infected from the rest of the city. One innovation Florence pioneered was the introduction of dedicated plague hospitals situated on the outskirts of the city. These were essentially quarantine zones or pest houses meant to separate infected individuals from the general population. Imagine for a moment the courage it took to provide structured care for infected citizens at a time when neighboring cities opted to abandon their sick to the mercy of fate, or worse, exile them outright. But Florence did not stop there. In a remarkable act of foresight, city officials also instituted regulations that might seem shockingly modern to us today. They enforced the cleaning of streets and public areas, mandated the burial of bodies far from residential areas, and banned certain trade practices that were suspected to spread disease. The deep roots of commerce in Florence meant that trade routes brought both opportunity and danger. Aware of this, officials worked tirelessly to regulate merchandise and quarantine goods entering or leaving the city. And you know what's fascinating? The economic resilience of Florence during and after the Black Death was nothing short of miraculous. With nearly half the city's population wiped out, Florence faced a massive labor shortage. But this crisis became an unlikely catalyst for innovation. Workers' wages increased dramatically as the demand for skilled labor soared. A rare silver lining emerged. The societal balance began to shift. The hierarchical structure of feudalism, which had defined much of medieval Europe, started to falter. Serfs and laborers gained negotiating power, and the seeds for a burgeoning middle class were sown. Let's talk about something equally incredible: culture. You'd expect a city devastated by death to lose its creative spark, right? Yet post-plague Florence became a blossoming ground for art, literature, and philosophy. This resilience played a pivotal role in ushering in the Renaissance. Take Giovanni Boccaccio, for instance. This Florentine writer lived through the plague and used its themes as the backdrop for his revolutionary work, the Decameron. In it, he paints a grim yet vivid picture of society during the epidemic, but also explores humor, love, and the resilience of the human spirit. How did the government hold up? Surprisingly well. The Florentine leadership at that time continuously worked to curb the panic that death had brought. Their governance, though strained, maintained transparency in their actions. Trust, although eroded initially, was slowly regained as the efficacy of their methods started to bring results. And it wasn't just about preventing deaths. This was a city focused on rebuilding lives. Florence became a textbook lesson in governance when the chips were down, a shining example of what one could achieve when unity and resourcefulness prevailed over fear and superstition. Now, let's pause for a moment and reflect on the scale of Florence's achievement. Remember, this was the 14th century, centuries before our understanding of microbes, vaccines, and modern medicine. They were operating on rudimentary knowledge, but their capacity to adapt and innovate was astounding. Their approach laid the groundwork for public health practices that we continue to refine and use today. So what's the lesson here? Florence's tale of survival and ingenuity serves as a powerful reminder of humanity's ability to face existential challenges with courage and creativity. In an era where plagues seemed apocalyptic, Florence managed not only to preserve itself, but to flourish in the aftermath. It became a city that turned tragedy into triumph and despair into renaissance. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of this period in Florence is the way it humanizes history itself. Think about it. A city, devastated by an unseen enemy, chose not to fold, but to fight back with intellect, organization, and compassion. It's a testament to what we as humans are capable of when confronted with insurmountable odds. So much of human history is littered with tales of destruction and loss, but Florence stands out as an example of recovery and hope. Today, when we walk through its cobblestone streets, with its magnificent architecture and unparalleled art on display, it's almost as if Florence whispers its story to us. A story of resilience, innovation, and an indomitable spirit. This is why Florence's survival during the Black Death is so important to remember. It's not just a story about one city, it's a beacon for humanity. It's a reminder that no matter how dark the times, innovation, organization, and unity can lead us toward brighter tomorrows. And isn't that the kind of inspiration we could all use, even centuries later? So the next time you think of Florence, remember, it's more than just a city of art and cuisine. It's the city that outsmarted death itself.